So I'm Mike London, and I'm having a conversation today with Ameer. And as I'm thinking about this, we haven't had a chance to see enough of each other over all these years that we've
This is
known
true.
each other.
The good thing about it, though, is like when we do see one another or converse, it's as if it was yesterday. So that's the good thing. That's
it does, man. Oh, it really does. And it's just like, anyhow. I want to ask you, I want to talk today about DCDC. And what I want to know is, the first question I have for you is this. Do you remember when you first became aware of DCDC?
An ex-girlfriend of mine was a dancer. My younger brother dated Sherry, so I became familiar with DCDC back in high school.
Okay.
I was aware of them then. Then during high school, that's when I met Jeraldyne. But because of being with around Cheryl and Sherry, and then the rest of the girls who would dance, like Lisa and Joy, there were so many. Knowing them, it's like I just became familiar with the company. When I got really, really into the family, Cheryl and I went through our little thing. We're high school. You go through your thing. With the dancers, it was a thing, and it still sort of is. If you're mad at that person, you're on the outside, then no one speaks to you. So none of the dancers were speaking to me. Billy Wilson came to town. He was setting a piece, brown, black, and green.
Yes.
He was setting that piece. And all of a sudden I get this phone call from Sherry. I'm like, oh, Sherry's speaking to me now. I'm like, okay. She said, there's a choreographer here. He's, I'm still being a little shady, like, why you calling me? She said, well, there's a choreographer here. He needs a male as a prop. They said, the outfits that you wear, those zoot suits, because I was wearing a lot of zoot, a lot of vintage things. Like that was my thing. The Argyle socks, I was wearing spats. That was just my life. The chain, pocket watches. They said, wear one of those outfits with your Dobbs and come down to the studio. I'm like, okay. Now, I jumped on the RTA bus, dressed to the kilt. I was used to it. It didn't bother me because that New York state of mind, just get there. Yeah. I got in there, the chain, the zoot suit, three-piece zoot suit, as a matter of fact, pinstripe. I was sitting out with the Dobbs, pocket square Argyle socks, dressed to the kilt, cufflinks. I walked in the studio and Billy said, oh my God, quote, oh my God, that's it. He's the one. And I was like, who is this? Who? And he, pulled me over and put me immediately to work. I'm like, okay, what's going on? I was basically a prop. I think you remember the piece. It was a prop. I had to hold a cigarette. I wasn't a smoker, so I had to use a prop for a cigarette. And he told me that night, he said, you have a perfect body, being 6'4", and I was, equally proportioned. And he said, you have the perfect body for a dancer. That was a Friday. I'll never forget. It was a Friday evening. He said, and we worked until almost 12:30 at night. And I remember Cheryl giving me a ride home. I'm like, I guess we're friends now. Because we were actually partnered together. I was her prop for her. I'm like, we're forced to be friends now. So he said, you have a perfect body. He said, class starts tomorrow at 12. Never forget. I'm like, there was something about him that I just couldn't say no. Plus I had to work with him anyway. And I was in class. I had never in my life felt such pain. Although Billy was into jazz, but he taught this jazz class at the bar. Yeah. As God is my witness, my fingernails were sore, my eyelashes were sore, everything in my body was sore. But it brought me into that life. I actually had 12 scholarships to run and do art in colleges throughout the country. That made me decide, well, I'm not taking these, I'm going to be a dancer. But Billy actually became my first male mentor ever in my life. My grandfather did things, my uncles, but he was a real, and he's like, and he told me, say, you're going to dance, period. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a dancer. He was like a father, uncle, big brother. He called me, he advised me, he's like, you're going through this thing, because I told him about, I'm a runner, I run. He's like, that'll work for you because you're an athlete. But I remember Geraldine, and it triggered my memory of her because I always wondered why she, sometimes she would kind of blush when she'd say things, and but she was so forward and direct. She said, "Look, we charge, the class. She said, but I'm giving you a scholarship." She said, and it's not about second company, first company. You're with this company, and you're not going anywhere. And she was always kind of like a mom, but she really became a mother. And I was like, well, out of respect, I have to do what my elders told me to do. And I remember Debbie and I talked about this not long ago, and she said, do you have a dance? Because I was a street dancer. I won competitions throughout actually almost throughout the state. So I was known as that street dancer. I was like the Leroy of fame, But I remember Jeraldyne saying, I don't know, being personal. She said, do you have a dance belt? I'm like, oh yeah, I have a brown belt and I have a black belt and I have leather. And I remember Debbie laughing just as you, and I was like, oh, but everything I needed, Jeraldyne said, this is what you need. Yeah. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
But she made sure I had everything I had, and she nurtured me. Yeah. And they actually took a mold of clay that was pliable because I was already a street dancer. Because I used to do turns, but when I knew what a pirouette was, I couldn't do one. But she molded me. I mean, they pounded me, and I'm so grateful. It actually literally changed my life.
I remember when you first got there, I had been a dancer. So it's really interesting because Billy was a taller guy. Billy, he was not short.
Billy was fun.
Yeah, he was a taller fella. And I remember though, when you were there, because you were taller than he was. And in my mind, I thought, you surprised me. And what surprised me was, I thought all of that extra length, because when I was dancing, I was in Texas, and I remember teaching in Texas, and I had some athletes, and I had some basketball players and others that I was teaching just in a general class. And boy, they just had all this extra. Do you know what I mean? And so it was like when we would do whatever, and then they would take them twice as long because they had a lot more to move and they had to go farther, and it was just
gravity.
I know. And so when I saw you, I thought, oh, this should be interesting, because as you know, all of the girls, there were no tall girls.
Right.
I mean, Debbie was the tallest, and Debbie wasn't tall. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and I'm thinking, because I'm like 5'7", 5'8" at the time, and I'm thinking, wow, he's got his work cut out for him, that's what I'm thinking. And I can't remember the piece. It might have been Billy's piece. It was something. And you kept up. And it had been after you'd started taking classes, and I thought, wow, I'm surprised. I'm wrong. He's going to be able. Now, I didn't know you were a street dancer. I didn't know anything else. All I knew is what Jeraldyne and I had talked about. But because my impression was you were just so tall, and there was just so much of you that I just thought, wow, that's going to be he's got his work cut out for it. And then you did it. And that was like, oh, well, I was just delightfully surprised. And I thought, well, gee, I was wrong. I guess I don't know anything. I'll go back to my office.
I'm trying to find a tissue. Okay.
Yeah. But it was such a delight. Do you remember the first pieces that you did? You did that piece with Billy.
The piece with Billy came after that. It had gotten to the point where Jeraldyne was saying, learn everything. I was like, learn everything, which started with that whole muscle memory, that whole, remember choreography.
Absolutely.
There were times she'd just say, do it. Until she's tested me, but I would do it. Now here I am doing spirituals in white, but it kicked in, and I think getting back to what you said, I think that's when Jeraldyne felt like, okay, there's a need, because he can't be the only one. You know, we need to, you know, and I was talking to one of the dancers yesterday, where with us being a sister company to Ailey back then, you needed males. You had what, Kevin Brown, Gary DeLoach, you needed males.
That's right.
And as you said, to get on that next level. But so there was, I can't remember what I started doing after that. I just know she said learn everything, and I was just learning everything in case.
Billy had just come off of, when he was with us, he'd just come off of his Tony Award.
Billy, I mean, he was a world-renowned choreographer.
Absolutely.
He was world-renowned, and to me, excuse me.
Yeah.
To me, I didn't think about, I wasn't in the dance world that way.
Right.
You know, I had started hearing who Ailey was. I knew who Arthur Mitchell was. So all these names were becoming familiar. Then Mr. Truitt, you know, I remember the first time taking this class. And I'm like, oh, he's someone to revere. So they give, you know, Jeraldyne's giving me history, you know, and I'm like, oh, he's somebody. But with Billy, there was just a presence, you know, his presence. He could stand there and just, his presence. I mean, he was a man who was so statuesque. And even before I knew his whole bio, I didn't really know his bio until he did a presentation when he said that, and he had that wonderful photo. And I started reading his bio. I was like, oh my God, this man is like somebody.
Yes.
And I'm like, you know, he gave me this gift. You know, I never really got into Billy's his accomplishments. I mean, I did because he's my mentor.
Sure.
But because of what he gave me for life, like always read.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I don't care if it's a sign on the highway, read it. He taught me the most valuable lesson on being materialistic. We were doing, he was resetting, as a matter of fact, we were setting, in the theater, we were taking brown, was it brown, black and green, brown, black and blue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Billy's flight came in late. I remember there was a blizzard. The snow was coming. We were at Sinclair.
Yes.
Boom. Sinclair. Billy comes in, and Billy's wearing this long black male mink coat.
Yes.
Billy's 6'1", was 6'1". This
Yeah.
Max missed the ground by a couple of inches.
Yeah.
He came in, there was a stage left, there was a piano back there. He threw it on the stage and was slowly sliding down and said, Billy, your coat. He said, F that coat. It's just a coat, let it fall. And it fell into sawdust and dirt, and you just seen this smoke. And that taught me so much back then. I mean, to this day, you know, but that's what I obtained from Billy. There were times Billy would call me during the summer, are you okay? What are you doing? What are your plans? I know you are on hiatus. Are you taking classes? Are you stretching? Do you need to come to New York? I mean, that's what he was to me. Yeah. So in spite of, you know, Billy winning these awards and world renowned, I'm like, this man is world renowned. He's thinking about little old me from Podok, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, you know, but Billy, phenomenal.
And it was a blessing that we were able to bring him to you and to the other dancers.
And I do feel where it's like, although he was coming here and sending us peace, I just felt that it was a gift from God to give to me, because it actually changed the course of my life immediately, as Jeraldyne would say, immediately, if not sooner. Yeah. It changed my life immediately. He also would get on me, and although I was kind of always watching my vocabulary, he made a point that for me to stress even more, to increase my vocabulary, to be more articulate. It's like you're articulate, be more articulate, you know. And then all of a sudden, here comes Alvin McDuffie. You know, we had that Midwest Regional Roar thing, and here's Alvin McDuffie. Alvin became a mentor. That was my second mentor. Taught me the same lessons that Billy was teaching me. You know, it was so funny because I think the dancers called him Mr. Wilson. Somebody's like, no, you call me Billy. I'm like, this is Billy. You know, it's like, I gotta call Billy. And Jeraldyne was like, okay. You know, but Alvin was the same way, same exact way.
When you were first dancing, how many other men were there? Absolutely
none. And I take great pride and privilege in saying, so even the male dancer there now say, you stand on my shoulders.
Yeah.
I said, first male dancers, started the legacy of male dancers with DCDC.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to remiss that Ray Harris was there and Steve, I can't remember Steve's last name. They were there just kind of like, I think like an experimental kind of thing. So to be counted but not counted, if I'm not being remiss to say that, but I am the first.
Yeah.
You know, there were 5.5 years, you know, so I am the first. And I tell them, you stand on my shoulders. I said, I'm here out of legacy. You know, so don't mess up.
Do you remember when some of the others began to join?
It was a Saturday. My day off. Jeraldyne said that she was going to start this this class, or this. She had this project that she was going to have young men from schools to come in who are athletes, basketball players, football players, wrestlers, and they would come in. And the whole thing was, with taking these classes will increase you athletically, which is very true. Lynn Swan, there's so many good people out there. Sugar Ray Leonard, they all took ballet. So that was the thing she presented to the city. So here's all these dancers, Calvin Young, his brother, I can remember the other guys, a bunch. I think it was a class of 15 other males. And she said, well, I need you to come in so they can see you and they can follow you. I'm like, Jeraldyne's using me, but it's okay. You know, but it kind of boosts my little ego a little bit, because I'm thinking, I have no other plea, as I know it's like, ooh, they were like, oh, wow. You know, and some of the brothers afterwards, you know, like, you know, man, you know, I don't think that's cool. You know, dudes don't, you know. And my thing was like, first of all, I'm around all these beautiful females. I said, in spite of the sweat, they still smell good. I said, so, and they were like, oh, wow. They was here. I think they seen Sherry and they seen Feel the Girl. They're like, oh, I'm like, yes. Thelma. I remember this time I said, I'll pick her up, I lift her every day. They're like, what? I'm like, yes, and she's beautiful. I'm like, oh, wow, man, you around this all day? I'm like, yeah. There's a full supply of women. I'm saying, this is just the first company. They're like, oh, they're doing like that. A lot of girls out here. So they became, some of them like, okay, well, I'm gonna come back again for a class. And I'm gonna come back, and then they kind of, you know, filtered out. But by the time Jeraldyne was kind of getting a fix of, like, because Calvin was stable, then she had an audition. And the audition, that's when Dwight came in and Darwin came in. And so they started just coming. And before you knew it, there's like male dancers, you know, like, whoa, which became very competitive amongst like that. First time I would say, we were, although we were close, there was competition, you know, there was competition.
But that competition was
it was love.
It was love, and it was healthy.
It was very healthy. Especially with the male dancers, because Dwight had the days. Dwight still has beautiful feet. I mean, I'm like, look, you know, he's got in his blood. He's supposed to have nice feet, you know, but he had these feet. So it's like, you know, all of a sudden the males are buying point shoes, and we're taking class on point. The splits, the whole garage. So it became, but it made us look good, you know. Jeraldyne used to get on me about go as low as Sherry. I'm 6'4". Sherry's 2'2". You know, she was like, go as low as Sherry. And I used to think she was like messing with me, picking with me. But I'm like, no, she's giving you some stuff that she's giving it to you. So by the time we got on stage, or by the time we were at Lincoln Center somewhere, boom, on it. You know, and as you said, being long and traveling through space and time and gravity, you had to be on it. I mean, sometimes she would say, you know, go down stage, it's too big. I'm like, but I'm back here by myself, you know, but I understood it. You know, but I moved. They call you, as a matter of fact, I didn't know people used to call me the Gazelle, you know, but and to this day, that's what I teach, and that's why I love it. So, but yeah, it was wonderful competition. It was healthy competition, very healthy competition, very healthy.